Could there be a real possibility the Red Sox move on from Connor Wong this offseason? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and one of the bigger names that have been brought up in a lot of mock trades for the Boston Red Sox is their starting catcher, Connor Wong. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to talk about the pros and the cons to trading him, what it would look like for the Red Sox to ultimately try and decide for ourselves if that's something we want the Red Sox to do. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start by talking about some of the reasons why the Red Sox may want to trade Connor Wong before we get into some of the reasons they might want to keep him. And I think, personally, the biggest reason why the Red Sox may want to move on from Connor Wong this offseason has to do with defense. The Red Sox were one of, if not the worst defensive team in baseball last year, depending on which metric you're looking at. And to be honest with you, Connor Wong certainly didn't help them get any better because this season was not a great season defensively for Wong. Coming out of it, his fielding run value was in the first percentile or bottom of the league. His blocking ability was in the third percentile in the entire sport. Framing was in the ninth percentile, and you add in negative 14 defensive runs saved, and by almost every single metric, Connor Wong was a well below average defensive catcher in the big leagues this year. He did, however, do something really well, and that was catch runner stealing. He was above average in both caught stealing and pop time, which was really solid. But this is definitely a problem for the Red Sox going into 2025. How do you ensure that the defense behind the plate is getting better with the defense on the field, right? Because that's the hope too. You improve the defense on the field, you improve the defense everywhere, you're a much better baseball team. And for the Red Sox, if they're looking at ways to truly improve the defense, there is a very real possibility here that they view Connor Wong as a potential area to improve defensively. Now, whether that means really honing in on him over the offseason or whether that means trading him away and utilizing him to get something of value and then signing a defensive catcher on the open market, because there are a couple of options if the Red Sox want to go that route going into 25. They would probably be short-term deals, but guys like Austin Hedges, who was great defensively this season for Cleveland, Elias Diaz is another name that had a great season defensively for the Padres, and neither would cost really enough to be totally concerned with the idea of committing to a catcher like that who's mainly defensive forward. So you do have some options on the open market. Connor Wong hasn't been great defensively. Maybe it's time the Red Sox put two and two together and say, yeah, maybe we could move him, get something of value, and then sign one of these cheaper guys. Another potential reason the Boston Red Sox may trade Connor Wong this offseason has everything to do with the number 3 catching prospect in the entire sport, and that's Kyle Teel. I think it makes some sense that if the Red Sox are confident that Kyle Teel is going to be ready to go basically opening day or just a little bit after opening day during the 2025 season, that Connor Wong becomes a movable asset. If you sign a real defensive forward catcher and promote Kyle Teel, well, Kyle Teel now gets to learn from, well, Jason Varitek, right? But also this defensive catcher at the big league level and sort of iron himself out there. If the Red Sox are fully convinced that Kyle Teel truly is the future of Red Sox catching, then, well, Connor Wong does become a bit expendable. And the final reason here is because he does have some pretty decent value. It's nothing super crazy, at least right now, because according to baseball trade values, his trade value is about $6.5 million, but I do think it is a tiny bit higher than that. And the reason for that is because catching is such a premier position, right? There are very few solid major league catchers in baseball, and Connor Wong, despite his defensive struggles this season, is shaping up to be, at the bare minimum, a solid backup or even starting catcher at the big league level. He certainly proved that at the plate this year, because this season he had a 280 average, a 333 on base percentage, and a 425 slug, good for a 110 OPS plus, or about 10% above league average production, with 13 home runs and 24 doubles. Now, granted, he did fall off hard in the second half, but even then, it it was still right around league average. With 4 years left of control and the ability to play more positions outside of catcher, I think a lot of teams would be interested in Connor Wong's services, and maybe this really is a guy that you can look to open up some room on your roster and fit other players in here. So to me, there are a couple of reasons why the Red Sox maybe, just maybe, are interested in trading Connor Wong this offseason, but I do have some concerns with this idea. However, before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps this video out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into some reasons I don't like this. In my opinion, the biggest reasons not to trade Connor Wong are actually just simply the total opposite of the reasons to trade Connor Wong. And that's kind of a confusing statement. So here, let me show you what I'm talking about. If we go back to one of the first reasons why we should trade him, where Connor Wong isn't great defensively and you could just sign a defensive catcher. Well, there's actually a couple of maybe problems with that idea. The first one is that any catcher that you are going to sign this offseason has to come in with the understanding that at some point in this 2025 season, you are at the bare minimum going to be splitting time with Kyle Teel, if not just simply backing him up towards the end of the year. Now, there are going to be some guys that don't really love the idea of signing a one-year contract to be a backup catcher. I don't know how many of them are going to have that big of an ego about it, but I do think this is going to play a factor in whether or not the Sox can get a deal done. The second thing here is that if the Red Sox were to trade Connor Wong and say, okay, we're just going to sign a defensive catcher, the problem with that is that it's probably going to be at maximum a 2-year deal, but probably a 1-year deal, which means for the next few years here, you're going to be constantly searching for a backup catcher. With Connor Wong, one, he doesn't really have a choice, right? Whether or not he's here or not because of arbitration. And two, you don't have to do that sort of defensive catcher search every offseason for the next couple of years because Connor Wong will be on your team. So even if he does end up as a backup with the Boston Red Sox and Kyle Teel is the main guy going forward, he's cost controlled and he's under control. And those are two big things for the next 4 years that could really help the Red Sox just sort of clear a path out of their way. Now, the best case scenario here is that if you hold on to Connor Wong, you get a ton of potential in Wong and you get a ton of potential in Teel, and it combines to be one of the better catching tandems in the entire sport. I know that sounds a little whack considering I just torched his defense, but Connor Wong absolutely showed some signs this season that he can be a fantastic hitting catcher, while Kyle Teel has shown the exact same. If they could put it together, they could be one of the best catching tandems in baseball. So what you're looking at potential-wise, is it worth giving up for what you'd get in return? The second reason why I think the Red Sox may end up holding on to Wong is simply the exact opposite of what we talked about with Kyle Teel. I don't know if the Red Sox feel as though he's ready to go for opening day. And if they're not, it's a really big risk to take because you don't really have any other catching options in the system right now. Say you do trade Connor Wong and these guys on the market either don't want to come here and end up as a backup or they signed somewhere else because you were waiting to trade Wong. All of a sudden, Kyle Teel's your only option. That's one, a lot of pressure to put on someone who never caught in Major League Baseball. But two, I think the Red Sox are going to want to iron out his defense. Not that Kyle Teel doesn't have the potential to be a solid everyday defensive catcher, but I do think the Red Sox, especially this front office that is now a pitching forward front office, is going to want to ensure that not only is he good defensively, but he's good at calling a game. He's good at leading the infield, right? He's that captain that Jason Varitek had, that presence, right? That's what you're kind of looking for in a catcher here. And while Kyle Teel, I think, could potentially get there one day, maybe isn't quite there yet. Maybe there is a possibility that they put him in AAA for a few months to start the year just to make sure that he's as close as humanly possible defensively to make that transition as quick and easy as humanly possible, at least on the defensive side of things. Again, if the Red Sox aren't confident that Teel is going to be ready opening day, it might be a bit of a mistake to trade Connor Wong. And then finally, the third thing here is that going back to that value, right? It could be positive. It also might mean that Connor Wong isn't totally towards the top of their list when it comes to players that are movable, because you can get much more for much less in terms of actual quantity of players by moving someone of a bit more value. And Connor Wong, while he could get you maybe a decent bullpen arm, maybe you package him in a deal with another couple of players and get a really solid arm. In my opinion, you got to sit there and you got to weigh, is it worth more to have him on this team, or is it worth more to trade him? And at the end of the day, I think right now, specifically this offseason, it might be worth more just to hold on to him. So in my opinion, I'm not really in the boat of trading Connor Wong. I think there's just simply enough value here that it makes it worth holding on to than it does trading away. But I will say, I think this is something we should revisit at the 2025 trade deadline, because I could absolutely see, especially if Kyle Teal comes up here and has started to have some success, I think you could see Connor Wong in a trade package at the deadline. I also don't totally want to throw out the idea of trading Connor Wong this offseason. I do think it's something the Red Sox are going to look into. Again, if they want to try and improve their defense, Connor Wong is a really solid place to start. And on top of that, they are a pitching forward organization right now. Having a guy who's really bad at framing is something that sticks out to me as something the Red Sox, especially Craig Breslow, who's running this offseason right now, is going to take issue with this offseason. So I definitely do see his name popping up in trades. I just don't know if it's the smartest move. I guess it really ultimately depends on what the return is. No one's untradeable. I just think maybe there's other players that I'd put on top of the totem pole before I'd go with Connor Wong. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about it? What do you think about the idea of trading Connor Wong? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think the Red Sox would be able to get in return? And if you were the GM of the Sox, would you trade him going into 2025? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps this video out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the videos. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.